Hey there, greetings from Farmington, Connecticut, home of the Silva method of New England and Chicago. Ken Coscia here. Welcome to episode number 4. How to activate and focus your intuition for breakthrough living. Let me just say hello to a couple of people who are signing in. Nobody at the moment, so let me just talk a little bit and say hello and welcome you. I am so glad you're here. For those of you here live with me and for those of you who are watching the replay, this is episode number 4 from my Trust Your Intuition Academy, and our topic is intuition, how to activate it, trust it, and focus it for breakthrough living. Let me just say hello. Hey, Claire Lombard, one of our Silva trainers from Ireland. Howdy. And Ina, good to see you again. And Adina and Alana Nicole, very special person. Great to be here, guys. And I'm just going to hold off a little bit before we go deep into the material because I want to acknowledge you for being here. I so appreciate the opportunity to share with you. This is my favorite topic, intuition. You know, we've all heard people talk about that little voice inside, the inklings we have, the ideas. And sometimes we dismiss them, we don't listen, and then we wish we had listened. And sometimes we do, and we're happy we did. And you know how that goes. So admittedly, it takes some trust, it takes some confidence and courage. And let me say hello to a few other people. Hey there. Adina. Yeah, by the way, a nice heart. Thank you. If you want to send some hearts, I appreciate that. Send some thumbs up. It tells me that you can hear me loud and clear. And Mary, hey, Mary baby, Mary Butler. It's so good to see. I love this. I've been doing this work for 45 years. It is my pleasure, my joy, my privilege, and honor because of people like you, and I thank you for that, and I feel deep gratitude. This is the 50th anniversary for the Silva method, and our specialty is activating intuition and helping you to develop a step-by-step systematic approach to not just activating it, but using it, focusing it, trusting it. So before we go into, let's just review episodes 1, 2, and 3. In episode 1, we talked about, again, the focusing principles. There are 12 that I've designed. These principles, I want you to know and understand, are based on my work as an avid student, a teacher, a mentor to hundreds of instructors worldwide for the Silva program. Also, I'm an avid researcher, whether it be in positive psychology, intuition. This is my life. This is my lifestyle. And I admit that, boy, when it comes to intuition, it takes a lot of courage. So, for example, in episode number 1, we talked about the first 3 activating or focusing principles to activate intuition. Relaxation. If you're a meditator, that's key. It's very natural for meditators who have that part of their practice to awaken intuition. Any kind of relaxation, going for a nature walk, listening to some calming, relaxing, soothing music, or even music you just get lost in. The idea is taking the pressure off. We have 2 modes of consciousness. The objective, logical, linear thinking, very important. If we had more logic, we'd be in better shape in the world. I mean, are you happy with what's going on in the world? And yet we also have a subjective mode of consciousness. Dr. Carl Pribberham once identified or defined consciousness as that which we pay attention to. So the subjective would be non-physical, non-verbal cues, body language, those slight nuances that give us a feeling or a thought or an idea about someone or something and influences our decisions. I'm not talking emotions, I'm talking something that goes really beyond that. It's like this first impression. So it's the non-verbal cues. Usually imagination, creativity come from the same place. In the 1980s, it was popularized, right brain, left brain thinking. We now know it's more about whole brain. So we really need to bring our intuition, our subjective mode of thinking, those nonverbal cues, in alignment with our logic. That makes it so much more powerful, doesn't it? So let me say hello to a few others. I want to make sure I say hello to everybody. Dean, Sylvester. Hey, Sylvester. He's a famous photographer, brilliant photographer in Texas. And Roberto, my favorite hairdresser. I don't mind saying I've known him for 30 years, Robert, or Roberto. He's just an awesome hairdresser, good guy. He's an avid fan of Hartford, that is. And again, I just acknowledge you guys. I so appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. It's people like you who encourage me to go on. So back to this idea. Relaxation is key because when we take the pressure off, we're more likely. So you maybe take a shower, you go for a walk, you read a good book. That's it. And you get the idea. Feel like you've been working on a problem. So make it part of your practice. Second, we talked about having a big vision, a big why, a vision, a sense of purpose. Why do you do what you do? Some of the hotels that I do conduct my seminars in, I meet some of the coolest people. And I find people who are servers there who they're on mission, they're on purpose, they love what they do, and they show it with their smile, with the way they greet you. So loving what you do and learning how to monetize it is key, isn't it? So that we can sustain it, we can bring our message to the world. So some of you are entrepreneurs, some of you have a message, you're authors, or you're aspiring authors, or you're coaches like myself, or you're trainers, or you're therapists, counselors, salespeople. If you work with people, you need to be clear about why you do what you do, because it mobilizes you, it helps you to tolerate life's challenges, keeps us going. And especially when it comes to activating intuition, because it's so etheric sometimes, it's so subjective that it's easy to get caught up in the spiritual soup. And frankly, in my experience, I've worked with a couple of 100,000 people. This is what I do. I mean, I'm as intuitive as you. We're all intuitive. But what I do is help people to trust and develop their own intuition. And I can tell you that it's too easy to get discouraged. Hey, thanks for the heart. Thanks for the thumbs up. Keep them coming. Love it. Thank you. It's too easy to get discouraged. So you're going to have a big why. Third, be playful. Now, what I mean, not childish, but be childlike. Be playful. Make it a game, not a test, not a competition. Competition, frankly, divides. There's a whole lot of research behind that nobody wants to talk about. But competition means you win, I lose, or I win, you lose. What the world, in my opinion, needs more of, and this is my opinion, collaboration, working in harmony together, respecting each other's contribution. I love the Silva method. It's what I do. It's what I am anchored in and grounded in. It's the foundation. But so many thought leaders have used the Silva method as their spark, as their catalyst. It's just a foundation. So let's respect each other because everybody has a contribution, something to make. And let me say hello, Seda, hello there. Thank you for joining. And Marek, thank you. And thank you for the shares. Guys, if you want to share this with your friends, please do. Please do. It's great content. So being playful takes the pressure. Now, why is that off? And why is that important? Because when we're pressured, when we're stressed, it constricts blood vessels and it inhibits the flow of oxygen and blood to the brain. And when that happens, we don't think clearly. Our higher thinking functions, the frontal lobes, kind of go on duh mode. So it's important to keep moving, flowing, and that's one way. So be playful, make it a game. That's why I'm doing my immersion, the Silva immersion of life and intuition system. Those of you who know me, been there. I play lots of games, put a lot of humor in it. And we play a lot of games of their intuition. And I find that when people play along, their socks are knocked off how accurate they are. When the ego gets in the way, oh, can I do it? That's when we're not so hot. So keep that in mind. Let me say hello to a couple of others before I go on. Pooja, hi, Pooja. New instructor in Singapore, brilliant person. And Alexandra in Romania. Whoa, these are fellow instructors. You guys rock. These are people, my colleagues. I am proud to say I know them and have mentored them. These are people who are devoting their life to helping us, to help make a difference in the world and the planet. I know them because of our work in Silva, and I've had the pleasure to work with them, certify them, mentor them. Wow. Thanks for being here. Episode number 2, we talked about application and practice. you got to develop some applications. How do you want to use it? You got to practice, develop. It's like, muscle. If you want to have better muscle tone, if you want to have a six-pack, I'm working on one. I'm not quite there, but I got a half a pack, my sons tell me. It takes practice. And the more you practice, the more you build trust. You know that. I'm speaking to the choir. I know. Just let me remind you of that. So applications meaning, why is it important to you and how will you utilize it in your life? So let me give you a couple of quick examples for that. Just recently, in fact, a few days ago, came back from California. And we were there for just about a week visiting my son Grant and his wife Jessica. I'm so proud of them. They are incredible parents. And our newborn, 7-month-old Bishop Maxwell Coscia, our grandson. This kid is adorable. Sorry for bragging. I don't mean to be one of those grandparents, but you know how it goes. Some of you fellow grandparents like Mary on the call and others. But anyway, we took the kids out, all of us, and we went into Campbell. They live in San Jose, and we're just out in Campbell. It's a great little community. We love it. We're on a one-lane road. It's packed. It's a busy, thriving community. All the restaurants are packed. Parking's at a premium. You usually have to go into a lot. And we're driving up, and sure enough, there's no parking. Barbara and I were together. We had let off the kids. They were then walking to go to the restaurant and get seats. And as we were moving down, looking for spaces, I just stopped. I just stopped for no apparent reason. Yes, I was focused on getting a parking space. Yes, that was my intention. But I just stopped. I had no clue, nothing going on. And I sat there. Luckily, there was no traffic behind me because it was a one-way street. About 30 seconds. And Barbara just looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" I didn't say a word. And all of a sudden, in less than a minute, somebody came out into a car, and I was a half a car length away with his keys, got in, and Barbara looked at me, my wife Barbara, and said, "What?" And we laughed. And there was our spot, right there, right where we needed to be. How about you? Have you had those inklings? Have you had those feelings or those thoughts and had the courage to act on it, and then voila, you get your feedback? It's a small example, but I got to tell you, in my 45 years, I go to New York City all the time, Boston all the time. Friends say, "Oh, take the train." We drive, we get parking all the time. It's just not an issue for that. We follow our hunch, follow our intuition with that. So that's an application. That's an idea of an application. That's also practice, gives you feedback. There's a great, let me give you another quick story. There's a guy in New England outside of Boston. His name is Mike. He's a respiratory therapist. And Mike went through the Silva immersion with me, activated his intuition, went into work. He smelled gas. You smell that? No. You smell that? No. He's asking everybody, no. And they have huge propane tanks that they use for their fuel rather than natural gas for a lot of their equipment, stuff like that. And it's a serious thing if there's a leak, but nobody smelt it. They called maintenance. Nope, everything's fine. They checked. Mike couldn't get it out. He had this inkling. He felt horrible. He felt danger looming. It seemed like maybe he's worrying, obsessing. So he called the propane people and asked them to come and service. And he told them he smelled gas and would they get their butts over here? They came immediately thinking it's an emergency. And they said the same thing. They couldn't find it. What are you talking about? He insisted. Well, they're on the clock. They're getting paid no matter what. So they took things apart. And outside where the tanks are, where the fittings were, they found the beginnings. Are you ready for this? The beginnings of a hairline crack. And they said, there's no way you smell anything because there's nothing leaking from it. But it's a good thing we're here because they had to change it. And eventually that hairline crack, if ever you know anything about plumbing, any kind of elbow piping, when the crack starts, it'll eventually expand and then you've got a disaster. And that would have been the case. So they prevented it. The best part of the story is, most impressive is, guess where everybody in the building goes to smoke? It's crazy, I know, but the outside where the tanks are. And had that crack opened while they're out there smoking, it could have destroyed the whole building and some of the buildings in the neighborhood. Wow. He saved hundreds of lives. That's how sometimes your intuition, right? That's an application. And it's only going to come when you have some trust. I agree. So that was episode 2. Let me say hello to a few other people. Alexandra, hey. And Jose, good to see you, Jose. Hey, thanks for your hearts. Thanks for your thumbs up, guys. Those of you on, please remember, hit that little button and share this with your friends. Come on, spread the word. We need more intuition, more focused intuition. Episode number 3 was just last week in California. A good friend of mine and Barbara's, Ronnie Joy, the midlife dating coach and now an author, I interviewed, and she's also a long-term Silva grad. She used to work in my office here in Connecticut on staff, and she'd been using her intuition helping her clients, helping women in their midlife, and especially helping some women who have suffered and have had to deal with cancer, with breast cancer, helping them get back on track, helping them get back into finding a soulmate, if you will, helping them to find meaningful relationships, as a coach. So I asked if she'd be kind enough while we were visiting if I could interview her, and we went on for like 40 minutes about how she applies in her practice. And it's really uncanny. I can say as a coach, and those of you coaches, have you also done the same thing? How about you? If you're with a client, if you're with a patient, if you're with a friend or a customer, prospective customer, how often have you had this hunch? Entrepreneurs get it all the time. You have a sense of what to say, or maybe to go off of your script or to go off of your proposed structure that day. Whatever it might be, you know what I'm talking about. And then you get your feedback when you apply it. Here's another really cool story. It's not a Silva story as far as I know, but I heard the story, I don't remember who, I cannot give the credit, but it was in a book actually that I was reading, and the subject was about entrepreneurs. And there's, how entrepreneurs, and those who are entrepreneurs are always having ideas. Some of them work, some of them don't, right? So this entrepreneur is in the shower, literally, and he has this idea, a new business. And the business was to manufacture stuffed pandas. He went to his business partners, he went to some of his supporters, investors. Nobody liked the idea. They poo-pooed the idea. They said, teddy bear has the market. What could we expect? There's so many stuffed animals. We don't think there'd be much of a return, and nobody went along with the idea. He stubbornly stayed with this idea. He felt inspired. Here's a takeaway. When you feel inspired, when you feel in flow, when you feel, yes, and he did. So he sunk his own money into it. He had them manufacture stuffed pandas. And while he was getting ready to now distribute them and market, the sale of the pandas, these stuffed pandas, it was at the time, this goes back decades, when President Richard Nixon was president of the U.S., went abroad to China to visit the Chinese ambassador, made friends, and brought home with him a lot of interest in Chinese culture. And especially in our culture here in America, it started a trend, and everybody became interested in anything to do with Chinese culture, and the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., and many zoos throughout America began to, guess what? Get permission from the Chinese government to bring in pandas from their country. And overnight when that happened, his sales went through the roof. So how about you? You ever had an idea like that? If you're an entrepreneur in sales, or it could be anything. It's called wisdom. And it's a kind of wisdom that comes with, again, your practice. And in a later video, we're going to talk in more detail about how to establish this as a resource state, how to build that muscle with points of reference. There'll be an upcoming Facebook Live that we'll be doing. And Alan, hey, Alan, haven't seen you in a while, buddy. How you doing? Good to see you there. And welcome. Guys, let me just straighten this out. It's a little bit crooked, I just noticed. A little late, but I hope it's a little better now for you. So here we are, episode number 4. And what I want to cover here is there are 12 focusing principles. I want to just go over two more. Attention and trust, which I've been talking about, and courage. So there's something called the law of attention that often you hear in the context of the law of attraction. Whatever you pay attention to, you give energy to. And whatever you give energy to will grow and multiply, right? So take that principle and apply it to what? How to activate, focus, and trust your intuition. You got to pay attention to the little voice within, the inner wisdom. the feelings we get, the kinesthetic, that hunch, that women's intuition, that gut feeling that you're feeling, in your gut way down below. Or the dreams you have, you got to trust them, right? You got to pay attention, first of all, and examine them and ask questions. What can I learn from this? Does this mean anything to me? And again, in a later Facebook Live, we're going to look at this resource state, how then to know, is this something I can really trust? Or is it just me wishfully thinking? Is it a projection? Is it my ego? Is it maybe fear? I agree, it's tricky. I'm going to help you with that. So stay tuned. Probably next week or the week after. Each week I plan to do one of these lives. I'm going to continue with the episodes about activating and trusting your intuition. So pay attention, journal it, write it down, and then your feedback will come when things happen. And you can, if it's a negative feeling, instead of waiting to see if something negative happens, I would recommend in your quiet, relaxed state, in your dynamic meditation, if you're Silva grad, you know what I mean, or if you're a meditation practitioner, change it, reframe it, cancel it out, neutralize it, delete it, erase it, whatever tools you use, and reframe it as if you were a movie director and see it the way you want to be. Reframe the situation, something positive. I do not believe in going to psychics for advice. I'm sorry. I know some people who are intuitive counselors, guides, they're excellent. I think it's dangerous. And actually, good professionals don't just give advice, they give you guidance. But when people go looking to predict their future, you run the risk. Nobody's 100% in their interpretation. It's all a matter of interpretation, and nobody's 100%. I haven't met anyone yet, and I know what I'm talking about. I've studied them, I've read them, I've looked at them. Like I said, an avid student and teacher. It's all a matter of interpretation. And also, if someone makes a prediction, a suggestion, it becomes a risk of self-fulfilling prophecy. So change it. If it's negative and it's not what you want, change it, reframe it, use your tools. If you're a Silva practitioner, use Mirror the Mind like you learned in the life system, day number 2 in the immersion experience for that. And the second one for today would be courage. I want to come into trust more so later, go deeper into it in an upcoming Facebook Live, but courage meaning, well, Buckminster Fuller, the famous philosopher and architect, once said, you got to dare to be naive and not let your ego get in the way, because nobody likes to be disappointed. Nobody wants to feel like they're a failure or I goofed, right? Come on. In fact, by a show of hands, or maybe just a show of, hearts or thumbs up, who in here would like a disappointment today? Who in here would like to have a good, healthy disappointment? Yeah, right. Nobody wants to be disappointed. If you know what I'm saying, give me a heart or give me a thumbs up. Excuse me. Let me just get a little water. Excuse me, sorry about that. Nobody wants to be disappointed. So strategically, sometimes we thank you. Sometimes we what? We don't dare to be so courageous. We don't trust our gut. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Every presenter's nightmare. I'm sitting outside, it's really blowing up. And some of the leaves and dust are blowing, and so much for being outside. Please, sorry. So sorry for that. Anyway, let me regain my poise. So you got to have the courage to dare to be naive and run the risk that you might be wrong. It doesn't matter whether we're wrong if you learn something from it. If you just simply say, okay, what can I learn from this? What's the difference that made the difference when I was inaccurate, when my interpretation was off, and when you were correct? That's the key. That's how you build that courage. So sometimes you got to take a risk. And you entrepreneurs know what I'm talking about. However, take an educated risk. I'm going to share more of this in upcoming videos that will build on that. So remember, Pay attention, journal, process it. When you have these inklings, this wisdom, and have the courage to follow through. So maybe start in a small way, small risks, and then look for feedback. Real key. Thank you guys, thank you. I was just looking to see if anyone else signed in and said hello. I just wanted to make sure I said hello to you and acknowledge you. Ellie Power, hey Ellie, hi, another Boston area Silva Method graduate. It's like old home week, having friends and colleagues and students from the past. Good to see you here. So again, for those of you who haven't met, I never really introduced myself, but you can see it right there on Facebook. My name is Ken Coscia. I serve as the lead instructor and international training director for the Silva Method. This is now, I'm going in actually to my 46th year, and for the Silva Method, we're now in our 50th year. And this is what I do. Our interest is, yes, it's personal development. Yes, it's a self-improvement program. However, our focus is clearing a path to inner wisdom, clearing a path to intuitive self, opening up the subjective mode of thinking to learn to trust it and activate it and solve problems and create solutions and innovate. And that's why I'm here, because I'm not, like you, too happy about what's going on in the world right now. And it's my hope that you and I together can create some solutions, can innovate, and can spread the news and get other people involved and really innovate it. We need a lot of reform, don't we, in education, in the monetary system, in the banking system, in just about every aspect of our lives, in the health industry. And that's going to take a lot of creativity, and it's going to take a lot of innovation. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I do know that if we can focus and collaborate together, we can do it, and we can really make that difference. But it's up to you, it's up to me, each of us, to share the good news, help other people, do your best. Take responsibility let's take responsibility for ourselves, be at our best, and then just spread the good news. So I want to thank you for being here on today's Facebook Live, episode number 4 of how to activate, focus, and trust your intuition for a breakthrough living. More to come. If you'd like more information about the Silva Method, just Google Silva Method of Connecticut. You'll find my website. I've got some free videos. You can opt in. I'm doing training videos. There's lots of free content there. I've got a YouTube channel. You can check me out there. Or go to my Facebook fan page, which is all about trust your intuition. You get the latest research information about that will help you lead a better life. Check that. And also, I've got a brand new academy called the TrustYourIntuitionAcademy.com. TrustYourIntuitionAcademy.com. If you're interested in some of the offers or things, check it out, guys. It'd be